Hi, I'm Laura and welcome to the PIRATex Deep Dive, where key personalities of the world of events and the experience economy join me to share their stories and their take on the future of the industry. In each episode, you will find a lot of helpful insights and learnings to bring your event game to the next level.
PIRATex Deep Dive. All things remote events.
So today is our first session in the new year 2021. This is crazy. Happy New Year to everybody. And I want to use this deep dive session to look back, but to mainly look ahead, to look forward and to identify and define things or aspects on how we can become better in building digital event experiences. And I can tell you, we thought a lot about this at Pirate. At the end of 2020, we got together, the entire team, of course, virtually in a virtual setting, to our strategy days. And we took 2 days to exactly think about that. What is coming up next? And we came to the conclusion it's a crystal ball. We don't know nothing, actually, and but there are still a lot of assumptions. And there are 3 main assumptions I want to share with you today, which they are, and also why we believe so heavily in these 3 ones. And to talk about this a little bit, I invited my 2 colleagues, Natalie and Felix. Natalie is our content specialist at Pirate. She does a lot of research and therefore is really on top of what is going on in the event environment. And Felix, as our CEO, of course, a thought leader on everything that refers to our team. So welcome the 2 of you. Hi there. Happy that you're joining me today. How are you doing?
Happy New Year, Laura. Thanks for having us.
Oh, Happy New Year to you too. Hi, Felix.
Same here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward.
Yeah, I mean, you know the statements, and I'm excited to dive deeper into the 3 of them. And let's hop right into it, I'd say. The first one that we discussed very heavily in 2020, and I mean, it's not only a statement, it kind of already is happening. And the first one that we identified is an unbundling of the event industry, meaning that we will slowly substitute different values of events and take them apart and put the focus on each of the put the focus on each of them. So, for example, keynotes will become podcasts, right? Or what did we say? Like masterclasses become online classes. And I find it very interesting because the need is kind of still the same, but the interesting point, and I'm going to push that one to my 2 guests, how will the way we address this need look like? What are you thinking? I think we go ladies first. Natalie, what's your take on that one?
Sure. So I think let's unpack this concept of unbundling and also for events. So events, for a lot of reasons, are a means to an end. So they're something to get you towards lead generation, towards building relationships, especially in the B2B space. And while events can be a great mechanism to achieve that, it might not always be the most efficient way. So what we're seeing, especially in the B2B space, is that different types of producers or exhibitors at events are actually going direct to their consumers, to their stakeholders, and kind of bypassing the event themselves. And that's kind of one example of unbundling that we're already seeing happen.
Mm. So you feel like that the middleman is kind of losing its role? Or the events as middleman?
Definitely.
And in addition to that, it's like, out of our experience of 2020, organizing all the virtual events, it's really about rethinking the concept of events itself, like unbundling the whole concept, because what fits in, what had fit in 2020 for a physical event will not apply for digital events anymore. And especially in 2021, if we look forward, how can we get the best out of the virtual event space and redefine the concepts of events for that?
And we're really seeing that happen, especially in cases where the event itself is the product. So usually in a more B2C environment, that these types of companies where their whole goal is the end game for them is the event itself, they're really trying to push this concept because they couldn't get together in 2020. So how can we extend this to our community, our audience in a virtual environment? And one way some companies are doing this, especially in that we see online marketing rock stars and also Slush, they're creating communities with their audience that let the event kind of go on for an extended period of time rather than just have it on a certain number of days. They're actually pushing they're extending what they see as their community into really new and exciting ways. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that this year.
Yeah, totally agree. And it's like if you create a community like that, you are communicating to the whole year instead of being at one time at one place, having an event for a day and just connect with them a couple of weeks before and maybe a week after. You have now a bunch of new opportunities how you can interact with your audience or your community in that case.
And if you then point out like each separate format, like or optimize it and push the value of each format in a more intense way than you do it when you bundle it all together, then we probably create like some completely new concepts. But I want to let's hop right to the second one, I'd say, because this is really interesting thought, because it kind of relates to each other, right? We're thinking about how event concepts will change. We'll take them, shake them, keep the best ones, optimize the best ones, and then like push it into directions we probably don't really know yet. And our second assumption that we really believe in, that we will see in 2021 a lot, is the opportunity to activate new players in this industry, meaning that there is such a big potential in this market. There are so many new ideas growing right now. You can see it. And it's probably there are a lot of players out there that don't understand yet what they can offer to this new industry, because it's it's changing so much right now. So how likely is this going to happen? I mean, for example, Felix, how do you think, what ideas will enter the market? What ideas, what startups, what is coming up next?
Yeah, that's an interesting part of what we discussed at our strategy days, the assumption, what will happen in 2021, who are the new players, how will virtual events look like? And what we actually are assuming is that it's such an innovative market surrounding right now, or market field, that you probably can compare it to e-commerce back in the 90s. Like you had shops where you could buy something and that's it. And if you compare it to e-commerce systems that are in place today, it's a huge difference. And probably in the 90s, no one really thought what was possible in the e-commerce in 10 years later. But that's the same for the event industry right now. We probably will see things we can't imagine right now regarding how people can interact, how platforms will look like, and how especially the B2B event industry will look like.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of new ideas coming in, especially if you think it like in a 360-degree environment. I mean, right now we're only covering some senses, like looking and watching and hearing, but there are so many more. And as you said, I think we are just limited in our own imagination on what is really out there, what opportunities are out there. Natalie, you spend a lot of time looking around the event environment and what is happening out there. Did you come across some examples of new startups, for example, popping in with ideas, like really catching up on how we can improve the digital event experiences?
Yeah. So what you see from the course of 2020, the amount of investment into startups and companies working on digital event platforms has grown enormously. And it really is a cause because of the demand that COVID really presented for the event industry. But you also saw very established players also raising a large amount of investment. So you have a combination between very established, experienced companies that have been in the market for a long time, and also new startups that are very young and very vibrant and really trying to develop a concept that's completely new. And I think we're going to see a lot more of those this year. And what I think why that is so exciting is because it really enables companies and organizations that never thought about doing an online event to get into the game. And that's an assumption that I think we're really going to see come out to play this year, because last year we had a year where there was this rapid escalation of the event industry on a digital scale. It was a trend that had been ongoing. You saw events were online. It didn't just start in 2020. But the pandemic really lit a fire under it. And one of the main problems when you have any sort of new technology is the adoption rate. So when everyone was pushed online and you had grandmas doing Zoom calls and everyone becomes familiar from both the organizational side and the audience side, you really have the chance to unlock the potential of what it can do. And organizations and businesses really saw that as well. And so some of them that never thought about doing an event before are now jumping in, and there are all these new tools that enable them to really take that on themselves. The barriers have totally been lowered as people become more familiar with this technology. The audiences are more familiar with online events. So there's a growing demand from the audience side. And now with a chance to put on your own events, we're going to see so many more new players enter this field. You don't need the traditional formats anymore. And you can really address some of your marketing goals or some of your lead generation goals with these types of formats you never thought was possible. And we're seeing examples of this from lots of different industries. And it's something that is going to continue to grow this year.
So I love the part with the grandmas joining the Zoom calls, even that ones. And I mean, if we made that in 2020, we really... That was like an upgrade of our entire target group. I mean, that's crazy that we made this. But what I actually wanted to say is that I also think the do-it-yourself approach, as you just said, Natalie, there are so many new players popping in and a lot of people are trying things out and just trying to do it themselves. But we also realize it's not that easy, especially if you want to produce a digital event experience in a really professional setup. And that brings us to the third statement we were discussing, or the third assumption we highly believe in, is that hybrid is not just adding a live stream. It's much more. And in my opinion, it's the most difficult way of setting up an event, but also the one that is probably most likely to stay in the upcoming future. But I want to come back to that in a few seconds, because Felix, you recently asked the LinkedIn crowd about another setup, not hybrid, but what's their opinion on a 3D avatar-based setup. Yeah. What was the result? Did they like it? Did they love it? Or what was it?
Yeah, first of all, it was always a big discussion, like, will 3D avatar events rule the market, or will it be the replacement for physical events itself? Because you can rebuild a physical event, you can create an experience that is close to being in real life at a conference or an event. And in our team, it always was a big discussion because I don't know, do you want to rebuild the physical world, or do you want to focus on digital platforms itself and all the benefits that come with it. So we launched a poll asking quite a few followers on what do they think, 3D avatar based online event platforms are not a viable option just for niche applications, a good alternative for physical events, or the best option out there. And what actually came out is that more than roughly 75-80% are actually seeing in 3D avatar-based online platforms more or less practical solution or approach to think about when they think about virtual events. And only 20% said, no, definitely not a way to go. And that actually brings me to pushing new technologies, or the technologies that are already out there, like pushing them to the limits for 2021, because we have so much to discover and so much to implement to make a really useful, valuable experience for everyone who's attending virtual events, that we will definitely see a lot of technology rising for the event industry in the next year.
But then coming back to the hybrid thing, so we're convinced that physical is coming back, but that won't stop the digital way, right? And the digital way has to, we have to cover both perspectives. This is like a really hard part, and you need a lot of, we experience this, you need a lot of manpower behind it, because you're basically hosting two events at the same time. And digital is not as easy as we first thought. It's much tougher. And I think this is really challenging, but really interesting point that you just mentioned, that there will evolve new technologies that we cannot think of yet. Natalie, you want to add something on that point?
Yeah, I think the point about hybrid events is really important. And exactly this on this point, that hybrid in 2021 is not going to be the same as a hybrid event in 2020. So it's not going to be just a live stream of the physical event that's going on. You have to take an entirely different conceptual approach with the event. And something, Laura, that's you've been really involved in, is kind of designing that online event concept that actually works. And what I think we need to take a more expansive view about hybrid. So thinking about hybrid is everything that incorporates an event that's live with something that is at home or in a remote setting. And maybe even something that can take you away from the screen for a while. Some of the things that I've been really excited about are different keynotes as podcasts, or doing a walking tour, or doing something that's interactive, but it's just audio only, and not being sitting at the desk on the screen for 12 hours as the whole live event goes on. Because audiences have become really discerning after an entire year almost of sitting at home watching events. They really are starting to become a lot more choosier, especially if they can just sit there and watch the event for hours. People don't want that. So I think we're going to see a lot more live events that incorporate online events, but the online experiences will be a little bit different and specifically tailored to the online viewing experience. And one example is a SaaStr. So Jason Lemkin, he's called this a perpendicular event structure. And I'm really excited by this concept. And I think we're definitely going to see a lot more of this next year as we go on throughout the year, and see event organizers really trying to embrace that and experiment with different ways of enlivening and creating more engagement for online viewers.
Yeah, experimentation is actually really good buzzword, I'd say, because it feels like right now we're trying to adjust our concept to the possibilities that we have out there, but that kind of harms us in what we could do or what the new way of doing things would be. And also, Natalie, as you just said, I love the thought of designing an online experience that also gets you away from the screen at some points, like the walking tour thing or so. So really catch all the senses. Also, when I just think about light and sound or something like that, this is something we don't use how do you say that? We don't use sufficient enough right now, because you could use all these senses that we have also in a virtual setup in a much more intense way to create a much more diverse atmosphere in the digital set up. But we thought a lot about we looked back to 2020 and what was going on out there. But I mean, 2021, there is so much potential. But what do we wish for? Like, how could technologies, how do they really need to improve? Like, in a concrete way, do you have an idea or a vision or anything in mind that you would wish for? Because we experience the consumer behavior is changing super fast. But Felix, as you said, technology is leaking behind. So any concrete ideas in your mind, what you would wish for in 2021?
What I would wish for actually is, there are a lot of wishes for 2021, but one of the main wishes is more or less like that we really see and understand how we can bring hybrid events to life actually, so that you understand that there is that you have to combine actually two societies. You have to combine every senses of the participants. Like if you are attending a physical event that is also happening in the digital space, how can you ensure and bring people to interact that are not at the same place, but experience on the other hand different platforms, but are there together? So that is going to be a really interesting part for 2021, how we can create and develop concepts that actually place or deliver awesome experiences to both target groups for one event.
Yeah. And Natalie, what would you say? Like, how does the technology need to improve, or how does it have to improve to catch up with the user behavior?
To be more concrete, I'm really interested in this idea of virtual worlds that Felix was talking about, and really trying to find one that makes us feel like we're actually outside of our home offices. And I've seen a few that use the Mozilla Hubs platform, and you have developers build frames on top of them that really create a lot of design and bring in a lot of beautiful elements. But I want to see that push further. I want to see spaces that are beautiful and really memorable. I'm tired of sitting in an event platform that feels like a social media timeline. I see a lot of those. I've gotten really discerning, and I imagine a lot of online event audiences have too. They don't want to sit in something that feels like just another timeline that's continually looping around. And another kind of more finer point, something I'd want to see is really confronting this question about monetization. Mm-hmm. First, from the organizer's perspective, pricing levels and seeing what really works. This is something that a lot of organizers really struggled with last year. And I would love to really try to confront this problem and really see some advancement here, especially tiered pricing or something that really works. And then maybe some on my wish list is inside event monetization. So where attendees can make purchases or make deals directly inside the platform. I've yet to see this. And this is what was the huge game changer about in-person events, that you could write checks, you could basically make deals right there and then. That's not quite happening seamlessly in the online event space. And that's, if we can get that right, that's when we know online events have truly arrived.
This is really, I love this statement with the in-app, or not in-app, but in-event purchases, because it will also increase the interaction of each of the participants. And if I could make an add-on to the wish list, I love the wish list. So if somebody of you is hearing this and is able to like put our wishes into life, reach out to us anytime. So what I'm missing personally is like it's also planned. I miss like a surrounding that makes the digital meetups more spontaneously. Like, for example, the speed dating is going into the right direction already, but it's still so stiff. It's still so planned. You still have to enter the session to spontaneously meet people. But it would be fun if you could have like triggers hidden in the event environment, that when people, for example, are at the same spot or click on the same thing at the same time, a chat appears automatically or something like that. So you create that feeling of bumping into people. Something like that would be fun as well, and to get it a little bit more spontaneous. But
that's actually sorry.
No, go. Add something to the wish list.
Yeah, of course, because that actually goes hand in hand. Like I really want to underline what you said. Like it's a combination out of using technology to increase interaction between participants and be more playful, or call it gamification or whatever, like to really let people do something when they are part of an online event. So it's a live stream is just one to many, but that's only a little part of an online event experience. So for 2021, one of my wishes is like we have to be way more forward looking or willing to experience new ways, because like as Natalie said, like we don't know where the limits are, but let's find out.
That's the plan.
One more thing, if you want to hear more about the future of events, just subscribe to my newsletter on pirate-x.com.
Oh, this is really good to know. Interesting thoughts he's sharing there every week, basically. So to wrap this up, Felix, Natalie, thank you so much for sharing your ideas, for sharing your visions today. And I mean, 2020 forced our industry to change. And besides all the assumptions we discussed today, I think there is one thing we can say for sure. We will definitely not take a step backwards this year, but rather, as you both said, try to push our industry to new limits. And thanks you guys for taking your time and listening to us today. And if you want to share your thoughts, as Felix just said, subscribe to the newsletter or reach out to us anytime on LinkedIn. You can easily find us. And thank you.
PIRATEx Deep Dive. All things remote events.